study just came out that is the first, and it's the first of its kind, that doesn't just correlate high levels of anxiety and depression with high amounts of screen time. It actually creates the causal foundation in terms of research for there being a relationship between the high technology use actually causing depression and anxiety. And this is the first study of its kind, and they called me. And it felt not so much because I was excited to be called because it was me being called, but because I feel so passionate about this topic. And it's sometimes, to be totally honest, since I'm mostly with friends and my own children here, thank you for being here, Connor. I love that man very much. I want to thank you for being here, honey. Well, and Elizabeth and John, like so many of my kiddos who are extras. I don't know what I was going to say. But I will do a short reading, and then a couple people responded to my request or my ask on Facebook about what I should do. And I got a couple requests for a meditation. So I'm going to just read you a very short little piece here, and then I'm going to send us off into the night with a meditation, because the coolest thing, that I'll give you the whole summary of the book right now. Be moderate, live a wild, fiery life so that you don't feel so drawn to technology. And your brain, the prefrontal cortex in your brain, which is the CEO of your brain, actually has diminished wiring in it if you are spending the average amount of time that Americans are spending on screens. And that average amount of time right now is 10 and a half hours a day. And the way that we get to that statistic is when you are using two technologies at once, like a laptop and texting, and you do that for 2 hours, the load on the brain is double, so it's like 4 hours of exposure. And that actually then diminishes the part of the brain wiring that is related to boredom tolerance and self-control, being able to redirect your actions, so like starting something stupid and stopping before you finish. It's also responsible for being able to sit still, for being relationally attuned. And the most beautiful thing that has come out in the research in the last 2 years, in my opinion, or last 10 years actually, is that 10 minutes of mindfulness meditation a day actually doubles the gray matter in that same part of the brain. And now we know that it also has the impact on the myelinization in the brain, and it thickens the myelinization by two times, which means your brain is more efficient and has more power when you can just be still and sit for 10 minutes. So I would love to end us with 10 minutes of brain building, doubling your gray matter time. So I'm just going to read you the last very little short part of this book. Everybody get really cozy and comfy if you can. Sit on someone's lap. Okay, and actually I also want to say that when I first wrote this book, I did not have this chapter in it, and Marta, right over here, read an early version and suggested that I wrap it all up with some kind of cheerleading, and so Marta, this exists only because of you. So, all right, getting to decide and being cheered on for doing so. Whew. An apple seed will always produce an apple tree. It has no other choice. The type of seed always determines what kind of tree will grow from it. Many contextual elements, however, will impact a tree's growth. The richness of the soil in which it is planted, the amount of water and light it receives, the temperatures it must withstand, the winds it must endure. These conditions and more determine how healthy that tree will be. The depth and variety of the color of its leaves, the tastiness of its fruit. For example, in areas where strong winds blow consistently across the tree, it might take on a bent-over look, unless some wise gardener intentionally puts props in place prior to wind exposure. The same is true for us. We are the product of our DNA, but we also are shaped by the contexts in which we grow. Were we offered opportunities for secure attachment? Did we experience trauma at some point in our lives? Were our sparks of interest nurtured? Have we practiced being empathic enough? Is our curiosity regularly cultivated? Are we continuing to hone our social and emotional skills as we age? These elements and more of our context determine how healthy we will be, the richness of our lives, the joy of our days. For example, like the apple tree, if we encounter strong winds, we might end up bent over or unhealthy. Technology is just one example of a consistent strong wind that can affect the trajectory of our growth. Whether it shapes us in beneficial ways or harmful ones is mainly up to the exposure we allow and to the props we intentionally put in place for support. Such props they don't compromise, they comprise the many tiny and large, mundane and complex, difficult and easy choices we make regarding technology and about all of our lives every single day. Over my many years of engagement with people, I am always humbled and thrilled by the honest efforts of brave individuals to make wise choices when it comes to interacting with their devices. I see adolescents and young adults fleeing social networks and reverting to flip phones in efforts to reduce distractibility and the temptation to live life online. I listen as gamers, who I love gamers, talk about wanting to develop worlds where pro-social and strategic elements in games aren't buried under violence. Developers are creating apps that can help special populations that provide opportunities for support and that turn off access to the internet and send passwords to resume use at set times. College professors are teaching important digital literacy skills alongside giving extra credit for technology fasts, which students gobble up the opportunity, finding a deep sense of peace after initial feelings of anxiety and depression. Medical students and engineers and programmers of all kinds use their screen time to develop life-saving techniques, then relax by undertaking all manner of embodied experiences. Every person has choices when it comes to technology engagement and balancing that with a full, fiery, embodied life. We get to choose deep connection with the embodied alongside proficiency, skill, and discernment with the technological. We get to decide where our sense of self is grounded and how that same self connects to others. We get to demonstrate flexibility in our lives and exert our agency, embracing technologies that enhance our lives and moderating our use of those that don't. We can boycott platforms that hurt us or that contribute to objectifying or injuring ourselves or others. Please, let's all do that, especially right now. We can push ourselves to keep our in-person communication skills intact and our ability to live through awkward moments well practiced. We can choose to know the essence of ourselves and our feelings, and we can regulate those feelings, even when they are inconvenient and uncomfortable. By reading this book, or by coming to this party and getting to the end, you've demonstrated wholeheartedly your desire to consider and be intentional about your choices. For that, I celebrate you. This is kind of funny because I write it like I wish I could be with you, but I am with you. So I wish I were there with you in person so that I could make you a spicy meal or a fragrant cup of tea, then jump rope with you. Or perhaps we'd choose to climb a tree and watch a sunset or fly kites and then sit by a fire and sing some songs. I know someone who plays harmonica and someone else who plays guitar. Maybe you'll be the person who finally manages to teach me how to complete a Sudoku, which I don't even know how to say, or who shows me how to make pasta. If you would please teach me how to flamenco dance or sing in Kiswahili, I would be beside myself with joy. And what may I teach you? There are so many things I'd like to experience, and I'm guessing the same is true for you. Some of these experiences can be had online via devices, and some cannot, at least not with the same effect. I believe to my core that a balance of these experiences is best, and that finding that balance can be excruciatingly difficult. I also believe it is well worth the effort to try to find it at all costs. Your embodied life depends on it. As we part, allow me to say that I hope my words have empowered you to break some habits, set some new norms, and gather fresh tinder for your fiery life. Be patient and be consistent, and focus your efforts. Building a fire that can deliver orange-yellow flames, which you will understand if you read the book, that will burn as long as they need takes hard work and time. Above all, know that you can do it because you can choose to do it. I know that you can.